Hey kids, welcome to Unit 4, Lesson 10, Multi-Selection Statements, Exercise number 1. We have an investigate and modify. We're going to run the program to observe the results, then experiment with the program by making the following modifications. Change one line at a time, then run the program after each change to observe the results. First, we're going to run the program several times to observe the results. What do you notice about the output? Then we're going to go to AP exam scene, look at the count range method. What do we notice about that part of code? Look at the values in the percentage text file. Is the if statement ever true in the count ranges method? Then in AP exam scene, we're going to change the values in each condition in the count range method. Run the program after each change. How does this change the output? Let's look at our code. We have a file reader pulling the states text. An array states is being created. There are 50 of them. We are creating a new array percentages. It is pulling from the percentages text file up here. We're creating a new object myScene. It is from the AP exam scene class, passing along states and percentages. Then we're creating an array of values, myScene count ranges. That's that method we saw in the directions. Then we're passing along values to create our scene. Then we're playing our scene. We have our standard file reader. In AP exam scene, we're extending scene. We have two private arrays, states and data. We have one constructor. It is getting those two arrays, states and data. We have our method count ranges we saw in the directions. It's creating an array counts that is an integer with 4 elements. Then we have a for loop. We're looping through the loop. As long as we're less than the data length, we're going to keep going through. If the data index is greater than 75, we're going to add 1 to our array at the 0 position. Then we have this else if, and if the data at the index is greater than 50, we're going to add 1 to our array at position 1. If the data index is greater than 25, we're adding counts to our array, this time at position 2. And then finally else, we're going to add counts to position 3 in our array. And that makes up our 4 elements in our array we created right here. Then we're going to return counts. Down here, we're creating our scene, and this looks like it is just creating our scene at random positions. And then it is multiplying whatever count is times 5. So it looks like we're going to get 4 colors, and each of them are going to be a different size based off the counts from above. Let's look at states. This is all the states in the United States. From my theater, it tells us population, so these numbers are probably tied to the state population. Before we run a program, what do I think is going to happen? I think we are going to get 4 shapes to pop up down here, all a different color based off the array in AP exam scene. And depending on how big that state is, we're going to get an element of that size to print down here. Let's go ahead and hit run and see if we're right. We have 3 printing off, 3 again printing off. So it looks like we're getting 3 shapes to pop up. What's happening to our 4th? I think if you remember back to percentage text, there were no numbers larger than 75. So our program's working just like we thought. There is just no counts being added to that array at element 0. Let's see question 2. We're going to look at the count ranges method. What do you notice about the code? Count ranges is a multi-selection statement. It is a selection statement with 3 or more options. So far in this class, we've talked about single selection. That was just an if statement. Two-way selection, if else. We've even done some multi-if statements and nested if statements. But if we want to test multiple conditions, what do? That's where else if statements go. Good rule of thumb, if you're testing one condition, it's an if. 2, it's an if else. 3, it's an else if. And how these work is they test conditions as they go down. So our first condition, our if statement here above 75 is tested. Anything not true by that will go to the next statement, greater than 50. After a test for that, it goes to 25. So that means anything 24 and under should be counted as else. And that could include negative numbers. These type of multi-selection statements are something we're going to do quite frequently in this class moving forward. Again, just remember testing one condition if, 2 conditions if else, 3 conditions if else if else. Let's go ahead and look at question 3. Look at the values in percentage text file. Is the if statement ever true in the count range method? No, it's not going to be, because no state is greater than 75. Question 4 has us testing this. Let's change some values in each condition in the count ranges method. Run the program after each change. How does this change the output? Well, we can test different percentages here. For example, we know nothing's going to get to 75. Let's say any number 50 and over will go into this position in the array. Now anything between 25 and 50 will go to this position in the array. And we'll say anything between 15 and 25 will be at this position. And then anything 14 and below will be in our else statement. Now we should get 4 shapes to pop up, and we should get some different sizes. Well, let's see. And you can see we got 4 shapes popping up on our screen. So it looks like we can use this if else statement to test different conditions and ranges. I'm sure that's going to be very helpful in this class moving forward. Key takeaway for this lesson is understanding what a multi-selection statement is. And that is an else if statement. It's a good rule if you're only testing one condition to use an if statement. If you're testing 2 conditions, if else statement. But if you need to test more than 2, use an if else statement. You can add as many else ifs as you need. Why use these instead of if statements? Well, these are more specific. If we were using nested if statements, each one of these would have to be a separate range with a compound operator. Now, we can just test from range to range because each of these statements is testing individually. Hopefully this video helps you understand multi-selection statements a little better. As always, kids, if you have any questions, come see me. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video. See you later, kids. Bye. Bye.